Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. It's AJ Vaden here, and I'm about to introduce you to two of the most joyful and outgoing and entertaining, but also financially prudent and savvy women that I've come in contact with in a long time. And they call themselves the Budget Besties, but Shana and Vanessa are their names. And I want to kind of give you a little bit of heads up of what this interview is about, which I always do, so that you know if this is an episode for you. So if you're listening and you're deciding whether or not you should stick around, then I would ask myself a couple of these questions. One, do I want to have more money? If you answered yes, maybe this is the episode for you. Would you like to keep more money that you make? If the answer is yes, this might be an episode for you. Would you like to have less debt, more spending power, less financial peace, or more financial peace and less financial stress? If you answered yes to any of those, then this is likely an episode around money, specifically budgeting, that will help you have a better and more successful financial path moving forward. And so as we're rounding out the year and looking forward to how can we best prepare our audience to have an awesome next year, I thought having the Budget Besties on the show would be so helpful and powerful for you guys. So let me give them a quick formal introduction, and then we're going to get right to the heart of this interview. So Shana and Vanessa are best friends and business partners on a mission to help take the shame out of the money conversation. They are master financial coaches and also co-hosts of one of the top 1% actually, ranked podcast, Financial Coaching for Women. Now, we're not going to talk about financials just for women today, but if you happen to be of the female sex, then check out their podcast because it's going to talk about really unique, tailored budgeting, best practices, philosophies, and principles for women. But today, we're going to talk about it for men and women both. Shana and Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. We're so excited to talk about the B word.
Y'all, I first of all love you, and it's really an honor to get to have BBG clients on the show every so often because we already inherently know you and your brand and what your heart is really all about. But one of the things that I like to do when we're introducing you to the larger audience is help them get to know you. So out of all of the topics in the world that you guys could have paired up to talk about as best friends, as women, why money? Why budgets?
You know, I think that we are both financially wired in a way. And I will tell you that this whole thing, the reason why we came together, it's a total God story.
Yeah.
Right. So we met at the YMCA. Our boys were 4 years old.
They're now 16. So just pause for a moment and do the math there.
I know. And we worked out together, and I just started going to a church, and Shana needed a new church. And so that next week she came with me, and within 2 weeks we were starting to lead a community group together. If that tells you about our friendship.
Yeah. So we signed up for this church, and within 2 weeks we're leading a community group together. That kind of gives you the idea of our friendship and the level of intensity in which we do anything.
Insta friends.
Yeah. And so, we did life together as moms. Our boys, like she said, they were 4, now they're 16, and we're still doing life together. But it all started, AJ, with a little book that I know that you are familiar with called The Total Money Makeover. Mm-hmm. And I picked it up, read it, gave it to my husband. He read it. He said, we already do this. And I was like, okay, babe, if you're sure. And I gave it to Vanessa, and, she took it and ran with it.
Yeah. So I honestly, it's hard for me to stay tuned into a book. I read this book in a week. I loved it. I loved the concept of it. We were actually going to Portugal. I took the kids and we went for 3 months to Portugal. My husband
To
came
live
out.
with her grandmother.
Yeah. So my grandmother, I'm half Portuguese. She was out there for 6 months and she said, bring the kids. And I said, can I do that? And she said, yeah. So I told my husband, I said, babe, I'm going to go. So I went for 3 months and really found out what was really important to my family, our morals, values. We loved that simple life. I really, really enjoyed the simplicity of living in a small house and enjoying family and only having what we needed and going to pick the fresh vegetables and everything. So anyways, we came back, sold the big house, sold all the stuff that we didn't need. We bought a smaller house, downsized. And after buying that house in 3 years, so I was 31 and mortgage free and debt free. And I realized that that to me was a goal. I wanted to be able to own our house. I wanted to be able to have things that were ours. And we didn't want to live like the Joneses anymore. Like we had our own way of living now.
Yeah. And so we were still friends, but we are military. So we were about to move away from Florida, which is where we're back now. And I was able to, through my own, I was a stay-at-home mom primarily, but I also had a, side hustle as we all did at some point, it seems like. And I was able to cash flow a trip to Disney World for my family, pay for it in cash, which was the first family vacation that we had taken. Military families, you get to go home. That's your vacation every single time. So it was like this really mind-blowing experience for us. And we drove to Disney World listening to Dave Ramsey and drove home listening to Dave Ramsey, my husband and I. When he got home, he had sold his car within a couple days and we were debt free. And so we then started teaching FPU. And that's when with what I was already doing, I added financial coach training to the mix with my husband. We both took it. And that's when Vanessa was having a little moment herself.
Yeah. So I was really in a dark place for a couple of years with my job, my current job. I knew it was a job. It was a means to an end. I knew I was in this job because it was easy and worked around my kids' schedule. My husband worked a lot. And so I needed a way to make money, but it also needed to make sure that I can pick up the kids to and from school and everything. And so when God really led me to paying off my mortgage, he told me that was going to happen. He said, you're going to start your business mortgage free and debt free. I remember laughing and going, that's cute. I'm not really sure how you do that. I was 28 at the time. And so anyways, I remember after I did the thing, I was walking around my house with my palms up going, okay, God, A+ student here. I did the thing. What's next? And he said, oh, you're going to show other people how to do that. And within that week, and I said, how? And within that week, Shana had messaged me and she said, I'm moving back home. I want you to get your financial coaching certification and we're going to do this thing together. Wow. And so that was it. That when we say that our business was literally led by God, it truly was.
Yeah. And just real quick, because I know we've been talking for about 30 minutes already. It just reminds me of your story with Lewis, how he called, right after that happened with you guys. And it was just that. And that's what we need as well. We need God, we need neon flashing signs. Mm-hmm. Otherwise we may not be as keen to understand what you had for us. And praise God, he had it for us in that moment. And we've been going ever since. Yeah.
You know what I love about it is we don't talk a lot about publicly, like the brand positioning statement of Brand Builders Group, but if this is new to any of you listening, it's like we talk about brand positioning statements at Brand Builders Group with our clients and our members, which Shana and Vanessa are, and we talk about the core of any personal brand is to determine what problem you solve for the world. What's the cause of that problem? What message do you have, which is the solution to that problem? How do you uniquely solve that in a way only you can, which is your uniqueness? What are the payoffs to solving it? And that's kind of your brand positioning statement. And what I love what you guys just said is at the heart of the center of what we build our entire company on, which is very simple. It's not sexy, but it's very simple, and it's teach what you know. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? Well, you simply teach what you have done to the person that you once were.
Yeah.
And any great business is a result of you did something, it changed your life, and now you want to help other people do the same thing.
Yep. Right. Yeah. And you guys always say you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. We once were those people. And we've had great mentorship, and we've been doing this now for long enough that we've been able to kind of to build our own system and build our own, like you said, best practices. Yeah. But for sure, we are now helping who we are, people who make good money, but have nothing to show for it.
Yeah. Well, and when we first started, Shana and I were both individually doing finances in a way that were the exact same, but we had no idea. And when we brought our business together, we realized, oh my gosh, we have a whole system here. And this is what we're teaching our clients. And that has been the most amazing transformation to watch what, like you said, what we use in our own personal lives separately, didn't know until we came together. And now we're showing other people, and it's working, and we're watching it work and watching it change their lives. And it's really rewarding.
Oh, I love that. And I want to talk about that. And I have to tell you, like, we did a total money makeover before we got married. Our commitment to each other is that we would not get married until we could enter our marriage completely debt free, so that we were starting from, ground zero, clean slate. And so we did the envelopes for almost 2 years until we both paid off all of our debt, and then got married without any debt and entered. And that's how we started our marriage. Was it's like, all right, let's figure out this money thing. And so let's talk about budgets. So and just money in general. Like, what causes people to make good money but yet have nothing to show for it?
Well, it reminds us of a story. So let's, brand builders, Rory, you guys say a lot, diluted focus equals diluted results. Well, when we started our business, as we said, we weren't 100% in tune with what God had for us, apparently, because we had a side business to our financial coaching, and we were teaching fitness classes, AJ, which obviously is the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine, we're up there teaching fitness classes in our facility, and then the students are out there looking at us, following every move. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were, we're at the front of the class, we're looking out, and all of a sudden I see a roach, okay? A big fat Florida roach crawling across the floor, like almost robotic, but it's big old arms, and it's approaching one of our clients. And I gradually continue to let Shana teach, and I just walk.
We're all in upward dog.
Yes.
Nobody can see.
Yeah. And I got up quietly, grabbed an extra mat, put it over the roach, and slid it all the way across the room so nobody could see it.
Yeah. And what we've learned is that that's kind of how people treat their finances. They just want to sweep it under the rug. It's kind of this thing that if we can just put it over here, move it out of the way, we won't look at it. If we don't look at it, it's probably not a problem, right? And that's how people end up with making good money and having nothing to show for it. What we know is they get to this point, they're doing so well in their career, they're making more money than they ever have, and yet somehow they still feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. A lot of times
I want to touch on that for just a second, because you said an important word there. They feel.
Yep.
So how much of this is our emotional relationship to money and what we think we should be making, what we think we should have, versus reality? Because I'm sure it's both, but I think that feeling has a lot to do with this. I'm just curious to hear what y'all.
No, absolutely. Because when we first started this, we were trying to find our words. What is actually happening with people when we realize that they have a lot of money? They don't need to live paycheck to paycheck, but it feels that way because their money, they're not being good stewards of their money, not on purpose, but just because their money is coming in and it's going out as fast as it is, as fast as it's coming in, because there is no rhyme or reason to how they're spending. It's not organized. Everything is convoluted into one account. It's very overwhelming as to what's happening, and they're sticking their head in the sand and just not paying attention to it.
Yeah. And that's really, we've all heard of lifestyle creep. And so you have, lifestyle creep as your spending or your money increases, so does your spending. But what we've learned, AJ, is recently it's been a lot with people coming on our podcast. I still have the 18-year-old budgeting system that I was using. That's really what it is. Like, I may be making 6 figures or 7 figures, but I'm still operating as my 18-year-old, whatever I did then for my finances, because I've been busy. I haven't had time to learn. And so that's hopefully where we come in, is we can give you some systems to use in your budget, just like you would in any other, motherhood or anything else that you've tried to level up your life and get to the next level. But truly, they're like Vanessa said, head in the sand. If I just ignore it, and that is the feeling that that they're trying to not face the music, to not face the overwhelm. But
they don't know what they don't know. So like Shana said, they're sticking in this 18-year-old mindset of one checking account, one way of doing stuff, because that's the first way that they were taught, the only way they were taught. They've never been taught a new way, which is, nothing wrong with them. It's just, and we've not sought out a different way. Right.
Right. Well, and honestly, people feel paralyzed a little bit. So if they do go to seek it out, imagine being our age, which is very young. We're very young. All of us are very young, EJ. It's fine. And being told, just, intensely do nothing but pay off debt. That's really hard when you have kids and you have all of this other things going on. It's not fun. It's not very fun. And it paralyzes people a little bit, right? So what we want to do is explain it maybe in a little bit different way, so that you can, be a good steward, like Vanessa said, but also let's fund some of these fun things. We honestly, we're a little bougie. We want to be bougie, but we want to be on a budget. Okay. And we believe you can do both.
Yeah. And, we love Dave Ramsey, but we used his system first with our clients, and then we found our own system. And it really was based on the response from our clients. Like as we formed our business and as things evolved over time, it was like, oh, this is really what they want. This is the lifestyle that our clients want. And so we designed a budget system specifically around that. And it's tailored to each individual person based on their lifestyle and goals, because what we've realized is that, hey, you can have your pumpkin spice lattes and pay off debt. Hey, you can maybe cut back on the subscriptions that you don't even log into anyways, and then also go on travel, right? Go save for vacation and different things like that.
And I think those are a couple of things that I think are really good to kind of talk about. So what are some of the biggest pitfalls, traps, mistakes, whatever we want to call them? I'm going to call them mistakes. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you guys see with people managing their money? And what are some things we can do to avoid those next year and forevermore?
Well, there's one really, really big one. And this is what there's a lot, we can go into a lot, especially when it comes to relationships, and there's so many different things, but the big one, really honestly, AJ, is having one account. So imagine you have one account and it's trying to track, and you're trying and do mental math, which, hello, I'm not even good at real math, like with a calculator, let alone with just trying to do it in my head. But you're trying to mental math, whether did the rent get paid, my phone bill, but also I need to go to Target, but also the kids are wanting to stop by Chick-fil-A, but field trip dues are tomorrow. Like you're trying to do all this mental math with one account.
And then also at the same time, you're at the grocery store trying to figure out, is there enough in there because what's been pulled and what hasn't,
yeah,
right?
Is the bill's still going to get paid? And so you're trying to do all of this math. So that is one mistake. And when we say the 18-year-old system, that's kind of what it is. You thought, well, I went to the bank and I opened my account and that's how it is. Well, we are in this digital age, ladies and gentlemen. So you can have more than one checking account. And so what we teach is let's separate all of that. Let's separate and have a bills account. Let's separate and have spending account. Let's separate and have savings. And we can make all of that automatic, but really truly organizing it and separating it into, like you alluded that you and Rory did when you guys were engaged, you had your cash envelopes. We can kind of put that exact same system into your bank, and then you can very clearly know what's going on. And that really does take away some of the stress and the mental math in the moment.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I have a question. It's like, why don't people do that? Is it just because they don't know that they can't?
Yes.
Yeah, that's honestly, when we tell people, hey, open up a second checking account, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I mean, you can do that. The thing is that they're so used to just having, when you go to a bank, they tell you to open one checking and one savings, and that's just how you end up operating, unknowingly that you can have a whole different system available to you if you just ask, right? If all the, what's the saying? All the answers to the questions you don't ask is always no. So if you just ask and shop around, a lot of people are also at banks that they think they have to bank with, but there's a bank out there that's going to do what you want to do. And remember, you're in charge, not them, because they're actually working for you when you're going to hire a bank to do a job. So the idea of having multiple accounts to be able to assign them to do different jobs is mind-blowing.
Yeah. Okay, here's a technical question for everyone listening. So then let's just say, I jotted down 4. There's a bills account. We would call it a household account, but bills account, a spending account, a savings account, and then I stuck one called taxes. So let's just pretend that we had 4 accounts, right? So when you get paid, is it a manual? I'm going to take in my weekly paycheck and this much goes here, this much goes here. Or are you guys suggesting that you have auto amounts going to different places? Or what are some of like the tactical best practices of managing those accounts? So that takes a kind of organized human.
Well, first of all, the biggest mistake is manually managing your accounts. The more you're in it, the more we tend to mess it up. No, love us, right? It's kind of like me in the kitchen. It's fine. But the thing that we find is that you want to separate all of those accounts and
So what you want to do is have all of your income come into your bills account. So that first, the main account that you have is your bills account. And so all of your income, every source of income that's coming in is coming into one main account. And you only keep in there what's enough to pay for all of your bills and all of your debt payments. And then from there, you automatically
are funding
funding the other accounts.
Well, because the mistake that you were alluding to that people do is they try to live paycheck. They try to assign paycheck to a specific paycheck to specific jobs. What we want you to do is let's take a bird's eye view, a monthly view of what your money can actually do in a month. And that's from that bird's eye view, then we can start to manipulate each paycheck. But what we love, AJ, is to take the roller coaster ride out of this paycheck to paycheck, this feast or famine. We have people say, well, this check the rent's due, so we don't really have a lot for groceries, or whatever, stuff like that. And
we're telling you can actually eat 4 weeks out of the month, AJ. It's fantastic.
And so we do want it to be very even, very smooth. And there's a couple other things that this system solves. You always know when you need to spend money, you always know where it's coming from and that you have it, right? I mean, we do talk to women a lot, but that is
so much weight off their shoulders.
Especially as mom, they're coming at you from every angle with something. And then, so we really want to be able to solve that problem. The other thing that you talked about, taxes. So we're going to separate. We really want you to separate your business and your personal, and we would have you automate setting aside taxes on your business side. That way, that's always taken care of, because that's another monkey on your back that you don't want to have. But really, these accounts, it's making it easily organized. It's making it, we even try to make it fun. Like, we have clients rename their accounts.
That's the best part, that you can rename all your accounts.
Yeah. And you know what? So you have boys, we have daughters. If you have an account that says, Melanie's wedding, you are so much less likely to steal money from that for you to go to Target or whatever.
Go shopping.
And so you can rename them. We have people say, my name is No, when it comes to their savings account, like all kinds of fun.
Don't touch this.
Right, yeah. And so, and then the real thing is, like, when you log into your own bank app, you don't need a special app. You can see all of this money organized. You know exactly what's going on all the time.
I think that's the other part of it, is people believe, or they have this notion that they need a separate app, some third-party device or thing that's going to help them track all their money. And what we like to say is, let your bank to be your personal assistant. Let your bank app do the work for you, and you can set it up automatically. We teach them this system to where, like we said, the money comes in and then the money all goes out, and it's all based on what your budget is telling you you're allotted for those different accounts. But then once it's set up, right, do something today that's going to make tomorrow easier. Once you can set it up, take the time to do that, you step back, and it's so nice that not have to worry about that. For instance, for an example, my husband gets paid every Wednesday afternoon. So Thursday morning, all my transfers happen. And I didn't do anything. It just automatically happened based on what my budget said.
And you have money for groceries every week. It's so amazing.
I love adding some of the funness to it of, like, give it personality, but also give it purpose, right? It's like, hey, if I said this was for savings, it's for, something, a better word than savings, right? That just kind of feels like an account that I can pull from kind of when I want to, but it's like, no, what's it really for, right? Like, what are we, and I love, it's like, well, I'm not going to steal from my daughter's wedding to go shopping. So, I think those things are really, create those emotional attachments. Now, there's something that you just said, Vanessa, that I want to kind of touch on, which is, you said, once you have your budget, you kind of know what stays in this account. How many people come to you guys and have never made a budget?
A lot. And we've also had people who have made a budget, but then they don't know what to do with it. And I think that's where we feel bad, because we have tried to use other people's budgets for our business. And when we first came together, we tried to find a budget that would help people, see if we can partner with somebody to use their budget that they've already created. And the reality is that there was not one out there that made sense to us, that actually told you what to do with your hands. It literally was just words and numbers on paper. So even people that have made a budget, they'll show us like this, and literally a written piece of paper, right? And they don't know what to do with it after they're done with writing words and numbers on paper. And
the reason I asked, because I was sitting here thinking, how many people actually make budgets?
Well, it's the B word for a reason, right?
It's taboo.
So here's my question for you guys. How do you make a budget? Like, if we've got people listening today that are going, well, I thought budgets were for people who didn't make enough money, or I thought budgets are something that you do only when you're this. And it's like, if you're sitting there listening to this going, I don't actually have a family budget. I actually don't have a budget for how I spend my money. What would be a couple of first steps for everyone to do if we're trying to get a financial grasp on how are we going to better steward the money we have? I do think budgets are helpful and necessary. Even if you choose not to follow it, it's like visibility. Awareness is step one is awareness, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do we do? Like what's step one?
Well, I think the first thing to think is to understand that the perception of a budget is that it's restrictive.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it. It's a chore. But what we're going to do is we're going to show you how it gives you freedom to spend and freedom to live the life that you want to live, to be, bougie on a budget, as we say. But and it's a very simple process to make a budget. But I think going back to, when you were talking about you and Rory as young people, it's really about being intentional. Like, yes, you make good money, but are you really proud? Are you certain about what it's doing and where it's going?
And is it serving you well?
Yeah. Or is it serving future you well? So we can be really intentional and really fun. But what Vanessa was alluding to is we saw these budgets with variable, fixed, and where everybody's like, but what? So what do I do with my hands? Okay. So what you do is you have your income. That's what you start with. It's very exciting, AJ. It's the best number. Everyone's like, whoop, whoop, income. So we like to start with the income. Okay. And then next we like to list out our debt payments. Okay. So we're trying to do this. You could do this in 10 minutes, rough draft, be okay with the, B plus work. List out your debt minimums, because that is what you're minimally going to need to pay every month, right? Our next list is our bills. We're going to list out our bills. And this is actually really eye-opening for people. Like Vanessa said, they start to see how many subscriptions do I listen to that much music actually, or, and start to see all of it on one paper. And when you had said about, I make good money, the budgets are for people who don't. No, actually you need to get a good glimpse of where your money's going. And that can be really eye-opening. So, so the bills is the next one.
Yeah. So after you list it out.
I have a question for you guys. This is back to a tactical question. How do you even do that? How do you even list out all of the bills? Because I think a lot of people are set it and forget it. And sometimes there's annual subscription payments that come out, and it's like, how do you even do that for the person who's going to, I want to do this. Like, how do you even know what you're spending money on?
Well, we like to tell people to do a 90-day audit. So a 90-day audit is going to have you gather all the information that you need to be able to make this. Now, we understand there's quarterly bills, there's annual bills, like we get that. But let's just start with the monthly stuff first. What are you getting charged for monthly? And sometimes they're on 4 different credit cards. Sometimes they're in one account. So really the idea here is to gather your information to know what are you spending your money on. And we want to list all of those out. Now, a bill is something that you are getting charged for every month. So some people will try to list their subscriptions and are spending, like, well, I'm just spending money over there. Like, no, that is something that's coming in that you're getting invoiced for, that you're getting a receipt for. That is a bill. So that's what we want to, you start with your income minus your minimum debt payments minus your bills.
Well, and what's really funny is we do work with primarily people who make good money, and they don't necessarily need to cut their bills. That's not usually the problem. It's more spending. Yeah. But once they see everything listed out, AJ, and like you said, it's just set it and forget it. Well, 7, 30, 45, 99 over, like once you start to see it, you're like, oh, let me go ahead and take a little ownership over this and clean it up a little bit. And that's really the goal there is it's not about whether you have a gym membership and a Netflix membership and this and that. It's about whether that is actually aligning with what you want your money doing for you.
And there's no shame on, like, we've had people that fill up every single line in our budget with their subscriptions and all their everything there. That's fine. There's no shame in that. We want you to be able to live the life that you can afford. But that's the thing is, can you afford it? And sometimes you don't know the answer to that because you haven't listed it on paper to even see if it's possible.
I was in a conversation with my husband, Rory, a couple of weeks ago about all these miscellaneous charges because we have a household bookkeeper. That's something that we've chosen to invest our money into because both of us are like, we're not very good at monitoring this, so we need someone to help us. And a couple of months earlier, I had seen those and I had gone in and made sure, like, well, we don't use that. We've outgrown that, or we hired, a full-time nanny. We don't need the babysitter app anymore. And so I had canceled all these, but they kept coming. And I was like about to dispute all these charges with a credit card. Like I was furious. I was like, I canceled all these. Y'all, both of us had them on 2 separate cards, 2 separate account names. And not only were we paying for stuff not being used, neither of us had known the other person had also signed up and subscribed to it. So I think part of the reason I was asking is like, man, you don't even know where your money is going sometimes unless you're doing these types of audits. And I had canceled in this particular with like a care.com, but he had signed up for one, and we were both paying for the same dadgum app that were both of them not being utilized.
Right.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
We see that a lot. I even had a lady who was paying for an auto insurance on a card that she no longer owned for like a year. And she wouldn't, I don't have access to their bank accounts, but she was like, something's not adding up. I was like, girl, we have to figure this out. Sure enough, it was an insurance payment.
Yeah. And that's why I ask, because I think that's so important. It's like, even if you go, oh yeah, I'm going to keep all those, it's just awareness. It's just awareness of like, where's your money going? And that was just like a recent story that happened to us. And I'm like, oh, that is so ridiculous.
It is awareness.
We both had that. So ridiculous.
Yeah.
Didn't even know.
It is. Yeah, it is awareness. And that's like what we're talking about, sweeping under the rug. Usually, and you said that you guys have a bookkeeper because you're not good at math, which I would not agree with. But anyway, I thought it was you were going to say because you're too busy.
Yeah.
Like you guys are busy, you have full lives. And do I want to spend amount of time on my budget? Absolutely.
Managing it.
Oh, managing. That's what it was. Sorry. Yeah. She's like, excuse me, I am very good CEO, good at math. But who has the time? And really, we do try to solve that and make this a very hands-off, very easy system so that we all can spend time on more fun things than budgeting. But it does happen more often than you think. And that's really what, like you said, it's just awareness. Let's just look at this once in a while and make sure that everything that we're spending our money on is what we want to be spending our money on.
Well, in the old days, you think about there were check registries, they're tracking transactions, there's apps that are trying to help you do that. And that is so time consuming. Nobody has the time. We're very busy. We have wonderful lives that we're very excited about. They're very full that we want to spend our time doing other things with our kids and at their events at work. Nobody has time to sit there and track your finances. So like Shana said, the way that we have it set up for you is an automatic system that if you just take the time one afternoon to be able to do, it's basically a set it and forget it. Remember that George Foreman a long time ago? Set it and forget it. That's basically what it does for you. And it allows you time back, the freedom back to not have to track or account any of your stuff.
And if you can imagine the bills account. So what we said is if you have one checking account right now, you have hundreds of transactions, like literally every Chick-fil-A, every, soccer due from YMCA or whatever, everything is in there. If you switch it to what we're talking about having a bills account, you would have found those much easier because there's only so many bills transactions happening and you can clearly isolate that and without a lot of time and you'll be able to see it. So to recap, we were talking about income. Yay, fun number, excited, everybody's having a good time. Immediately to kind of the worst number, which is debt minimums, which the Badens didn't have when they got married. Congratulations. And then we're going to the bills, right? But then after that is the
most fun.
That's when we're finally here where we get to spend money. It's very exciting.
This is where you live in your budget, right?
Yeah. And so this is really what differentiated us when we made our budget. When you spend money, this is when you're swiping, when you're either going to the grocery store, you're going to the restaurant, you're going, even if you're paying for a babysitter, all of the stuff that you're spending, it's not a bill, but it's over here. It's discretionary. It's different every month, maybe. And that's what we really want to put over there in that column. And we will add, when you use the audit that we talked about, that's when it can get a little ugly. We've had clients come in and say, well, I did what you told me and I wanted to throw up. So thank you for that, because they were spending so much money on restaurants. Imagine, $4,000 a month on restaurants. If you have a goal to get out of debt, you have a goal to travel, it's just not in alignment. And that's what, like you said before, awareness, it's what it's really about.
Yeah. So the idea with the spending accounts is really just allow you to see how much money you're spending. And so there's two questions here. What am I spending my money on? And what do I want to be spending my money on? And then once you decide what your budget allows, then you can designate a certain amount of money to be transferred into that spending account from your bills account each paycheck. So it allows you the right amount of money with some guardrails. Like, we never want to make you feel broke. But the idea here is, one of the things I like to ask my clients is, have you ever asked a millionaire how they got there? And the answer is it's never on accident. Like, it was very strategically planned. And so with this, we want to give you the right amount of spending money where it feels good and you feel like everything is covered and there's a little bit of cushion, but it's not out of control, right? And also you don't feel restricted.
Well, and another key part of this spending column, and we're not done yet, we got one more column after the spending, but is personal spending. So when you were asking earlier about feeling, people have money baggage and they have different kind of self-sabotage things that they do when it comes to their money. And so one of the ways to fix that is to get you used to having money. you have money to spend. Nobody's telling you can't. And so you can take away some of that angst that people have. You have permission. Go to Target, girl. Go to Target to your heart out, or wherever you need to go. And that's the personal spending money. And we want that separate for each, the husband and the wife, or whatever, situation you have there. We want that separate so that you can have it. And it really does help heal your relationship with money in some ways. And, this whole system is really going to help heal your relationship with your spouse when it comes to money as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's so good, of just like the personal spending accounts where it's like, don't have to ask permission. These are set aside amounts where it's my free will money. And I love that. And I think, one of the things I think is like so important that you guys brought up is like, we have money baggage, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's money trauma or money insecurity or scarcity or whatever there is. And I would be curious to hear a couple of things that you guys have just seen that, as people are listening, it's like, for the people listening who are going, man, it's like, I know I should do all these things, but I'm still not, because I have this emotional disconnect with money. And, one of the things that I run into a lot is people always think, well, I have to make more. I have to make more. And the question is, but do you? And it's like, to some degree, it's like, could you ever make enough? Or is it really, I need to make more, or is it, you need to spend less? And I would just be curious, what have you guys seen as you guys have been doing this with so many people over all the years of like, what are some of the challenges that you guys have seen, and hopefully some ideas of how do people overcome some of those money emotional challenges?
We've had couples come together and never actually talk about money before they get married. And so when they get married, well, first of all, nobody ever taught them how to handle their own money. And then they get married, and now you're having to handle two people's money together that neither one of them ever spoke about. So then you have the husband whose family maybe was very wealthy, never had to worry about money, so he just spent all the time. Then you have the wife who came in, whose family didn't have a lot of money. So any money she does have, she wants to hold on to it because there's money baggage there. And he has money baggage in his own way because never had to worry about it. So it was never a problem, right? And then they come together trying to work this out and do finances together. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah. And one of the things that people are doing is they're trying to they're not looking at their numbers. And so they're just spending until they get to zero. That's usually, or until their credit card balance is max. Those are the two options. And so when we take them through the system, they have to get used to having money. It's such a strange phenomenon. Like, you're making good money, you have money, like you're doing well, but that you still have this internal need to spend because you're still living on that 18-year-old system or whatever, where I didn't have anything, and it's scarcity. And so that is one interesting thing that we've seen is their money starts to stack up in their savings account. They have money every time they get paid, and you can't have this self-sabotage loop of spend, have no money, spend. It starts to break it, but it really is about, taking full ownership. When it's amazing how we can see people that spend money on their hair, their nails, their vacations, their car, like they're so spendy, but once they actually start to look at it, they take ownership. They're not running from it anymore, right? They're looking at it, they're taking ownership. They change. They really do. This is going to blow your mind. They get more excited about saving money than spending money. And that's just what we've seen. We're not telling them to be that way. It's just like, it starts to be like, kind of be gamified. Like I am this new person that gets more excited about spending or saving than I do spending.
We have, on average, depending on where people are in their financial journey, like they're either paying off or saving about $20,000 in 6 months after working with us and seeing the system that we put in place for them. But Shana just had a client the other day who had money in the account, and before they met, she just like transferred it out somewhere. And Shana's like, what'd you do? And she said, well, I had money in there, so I just moved it. And she's like, no. What the reality is because she's not used to having money. She's not used to seeing any money in her account. She's usually always in the red, or it's, at zero. So for her to see this money that we specifically put there on purpose, that was really hard for her to like settle with and be okay with.
Yeah. I think that those emotional ties to money that we all have, regardless if it came from childhood, adolescence, adulthood, doesn't matter where it comes from something. And it really is having good awareness of what am I making? What am I spending? What do I want? And then what do I have to do about it? right?
Mhm.
And I think those are all kind of like some of like the basics there. For everyone who's heading into the new year, which we're just right around the corner. If we were to talk about just some simple steps that anyone can take to have more financial authority over their money in this next year, what would be some of those simple next best steps?
Well, as we alluded to, go ahead and print out 3 months worth of those statements. Print out the credit, whether it's credit card or debit card, no shame there, but let's just look at it. We like to imagine that everybody can embrace their inner nerd and just get some highlighters, just take a moment and just look and see what's been going on.
Bring a beverage, bring some snacks, make a fun afternoon of it.
And really just see what's been going on with your money. And, when people do this, they tend to get down on themselves a little bit. They like we alluded to, several clients have come in and say, well, that wasn't fun. But actually it is fun, because what it is it's the first step in you taking complete ownership. And you should be really proud, like, awesome, you're doing awesome. You're doing the next right thing. And that's what we want to do. We want to look at where, like Vanessa said, what we have been doing. And it's really exciting to make a plan of what we want to do. Because one of the things, when we put the numbers into a budget with any new client, they're like, wow, I have that much money. They
literally, when we make a budget, they're like, what do you mean I have $3,000 left over? I'm like, well, I mean, the one thing we love about finance is that numbers don't lie. Math doesn't lie. It's really black and white. So for them to be able to see all this leftover money, it's really eye-opening. So, when they do the 90-day audit and they look at all their
numbers,
how they have been spending their money, the next step is the one thing that they can do is separate your accounts. If it's the one thing that they got out of this podcast at all, is to open a separate checking account specifically for spending, and they can transfer a certain amount of money in there every paycheck based on what their budget allows, for them to have the freedom to spend. So that way it's not convoluted. It's not mixed up with all of their bill and their debt payments.
Well, and just one more little thing, we're coming into the new year. You're going to be thinking about your goals anyway. At Brand Builders, we start with who are you going to serve, right? Here, think about who you want to be. Think about what this big, exciting vision you have for your life, because no matter what it is, whether it's being generous, whether it's traveling, whether it's something for your kids, probably going to require money. So we want to come up with that vision, because that vision is what you're going to be able to, you're going to create a budget to fulfill that vision. And that's what's going to inspire you to keep doing it, to keep trying, to keep looking at the numbers and stay motivated.
Yeah, that's good. And I love that, because it's like, money is not bad, right? Letting it rule over your life is bad, but money itself is not inherently bad. It is not bad to make money. Money is necessary and does much good. It's just what we do with the money. And is it ruling over our hearts, or are we ruling over it? And this is a step to putting you in control over you ruling it, not it ruling you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, this has been so good and so timely as we head into the new year, and specifically as we're going, like, most of your spending for the year is done. So it's a good time to do a year in review, quarter in review, whatever you can tolerate, right? But to do some sort of review and go, well, how could it be different in the future? And I love that. Now, you guys also have a big launch coming out. You want to talk about that?
Oh, well, yes, we really, really do. So we talked about this budget system that we created, working with clients after using other ones, and we have redesigned it. And it's really important that everybody knows it's clear, it's beautiful. That's important. It's important. If you want to look at the math, it should look nice. It has check boxes.
Yes.
We have added some bells and whistles, but it's a whole system for you to be able to take control of your finances and, set up your budget.
Yeah. So you get lifetime access to this budget system. So you get to use it year after year. The idea is that you use one whole system for the entire year. Then you get to download a new one. And for, 2026, 27, all that. But it also comes with a course. It comes with how-to videos and exactly how to use it. So you are the most successful when you're going through it and putting all the numbers on paper. But the reality is that, like Shana said, it is simple. It's clear. It allows you to really see your money as a whole. And the best part, one of the best parts, is that you can print it all on one paper.
Hey,
so we were very specific when we designed it that if you wanted to print it out, you can do that. And it's right there in front of you. We figured if numbers are on one paper, it can't be so scary.
That can be so scary if it's one page, right? Like that seems fair. And so you can go to budgetbesties.com/AJ to check that out.
Yeah. So I would just encourage, like, if you're listening to this going, man, it's been a while since I made a budget. I should probably have one, or man, don't really know what to do, and I never review my spending. This is an opportunity to have a reset moment. Right? This is an opportunity to go, how do I do it in a simple way, a clear way, a navigatable way, one that feels like I can actually do it. And so I would just also encourage you, whoever's listening, if this is a season that you need to just relook at how you're making money and spending money, this would be a great opportunity. So again, budgetbesties.com/AJ, and check out the simplified budget system to help you take control of your money. And also I would encourage, if you guys have enjoyed listening to Shana and Vanessa, then also check out their podcast. You guys can go to budgetbesties.com/podcast. And then you can also just look it up, which is Financial Coaching for Women. So check them out, visit their podcast, check out their website, check out this course. And most importantly, make sure that you make some changes about how you're viewing your money so that you get to keep more of it. Shana and Vanessa, thank you so much for being on the show. For everyone who's listening, stay tuned for the recap episode, and we will see you next time on the Influential Personal Brand.